within the shadow cabinet and sort of just Labour staffers more generally, the writing has been on the wall that the kind of this rightward shift of the party is happening. And if you're not of that bent, if you're not from that faction, then you are largely irrelevant. This has obviously been solidified by, if you look at someone like Pat McFadden, who it's probably a good way to describe him as possibly sort of the most powerful Labour politician that no one's heard of. Unless you're a political geek, the listeners probably won't have heard of him. But, a key power broker, like you said, from Smith to Blair to Brown, absconded, disappeared during Corbyn and came back, was the first resignation, right, that kicked off the sort of Owen Smith leadership contest against Corbyn in 2016, 17?
Right about then.
Were you alive then? Do you remember that one?
No, I wasn't.
Yeah.
I'm 5.
2016, because I was in my second year university.
Good work.
I remember where I was when it happened.
That's good.
Love that.
You're born for this, Ava.
His missus was at the Tony Blair Institute. She was also an advisor. She's back now. It's sort of like Labour family, a power broker and a committed and true believing Blairite. To see him sort of now, he's going to be running the election campaign, right, as well. And then people like, I know we're talking about Rosanna, so I'll just mention her, but real world life experience, works in A&E on the reg, a good media communicator, I would say. To my mind, sort of represented an interesting possible direction of a future Labour Party, a sort of the next generation coming through, if you like. And someone like that being tipped out for someone you would describe as a career Blairite, like Pat McFadden, I think it's a very nice symbol of what this reshuffle is and what it symbolises.
Most powerful brow in Westminster. He raises his eyebrow, and it's apparently it's meant to frighten you.
Oh, really?
You ain't seen these puppies.
Yeah, it's like Gavin Williamson's spider. It's supposed to have the
Cronus.
same- Yeah.
Why are they all so freaking weird?
I know.
Why, like...
Pat McFadden must simply raise his eyebrow.
It's also, like... who cares?
And Labour spats shit themselves.
It's so, like... Oh.
These people have, like, the constitution of a toddler.
No, Pat! People have only worked in Westminster since the age of 21. Just a ghost. You need to be frightened of this. Why?
Knocking their Chili's bottles over and pissing themselves.
Why can't they all just behave like normal people?
Yeah, but to be fair, I mean, not so much now, but there was that chief whip, and the name escapes me, but there was that chief whip who used to threaten the MPs. I'm not exaggerating. If you don't vote the way I'm telling you to, I will tell the world that you are noncing.
What the hell?
I'm not exaggerating.
What era of politics is this?
How do I even look this up?
Like 1815.
No, it wasn't.
You, sir, are a gad and a diddler.
You were caught and served with a boy.
And not the right kind, might I add.
I'm typing a lot of keywords in here that's going to put me on a list somewhere.
Check the hard drives.
This is going to be bad.
You and I can spitball while Ava Googles.
Should we do more parliamentary, 19th century parliamentary roleplay?
That's going to really bother me. I tell you what, I will find it. And then when I do find it, I'll put it on the PoliticsJOE Twitter. There you go.
I don't know if you can put that on the
There's a
PoliticsJOE
video.
Twitter.
No, there's a video.
There's a video.
There's an interview.
Oh,
you all know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're
idea
talking about.
about.
I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that video.
Maybe we'll put it in here.
And so is the interview with someone who had that happen to them, or with the
it's
whip in
like
question?
like kind of like I don't know, like a panorama retrospective or something.
Right.
Where we'll interview sort of politician 20 years after they've left Westminster, and the guy's talking about sort of threatening to falsely accuse people of being nonces, but to get a vote through.
Just not cricket.
It's like man on a black background type.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a menacing kind of interview.
But it's completely like we can't remember the bloke's name or what period of government it's from, so it's kind of irrelevant to the listener.
You were hobnobbing with a 15-year-old Etonian.
Hey, speaking of chief whips, Gavin Williamson was in trouble today, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's going to have to apologise in the House of Commons.
Can't wait for that.
It's been a bad day for the government.
They've been pretty fucking busy. Well, yeah.
Gavin Williamson, Michelle Keegan. That's
Who?
her name, isn't it? Excuse me, who's Michelle Keegan? She's from Coronation Street.
Yeah.
I don't know what she's done to the government. Gillian Keegan, Pincher, Sunak and the schools.
You
And
could
we've been
explain-
talking about fucking
You could explain
Pat
any
McFadden.
number of these stories for a listener. That would be great. What did you say?
And we've been talking about fucking Pat McFadden. We've had to explain to the audience who Pat McFadden is.
Pat McFadden's eyebrow has taken up far too much. Can you imagine? That's the sort of thing as like a SPAD advising someone like Pat McFadden, or just being Pat McFadden yourself. That you the latest edition of the New Statesman lands, and you open it to read a profile of yourself, and it's like, Pat McFadden's eyebrow sets pulses racing in Westminster, and you're just there like fucking rock hard, being like, this is what I live for.
This is why
this
I
is
got
my El
into-
Clasico.
Yeah, that's why I got into
Or
this.
being the advisor on the phone, being like, get it in there. Get it in there about his rock hard. Like, oh no, he was rock hard.
Just so you know, he will have an erection when he reads this. I hope this doesn't put you off doing the profile. If you don't rate the positive thing, I will accuse you of being a paedophile.
Have you seen my big spider?
Have you seen my spider?
No, Ed, you're right. Why don't you run through it why don't you out us as terrible podcast producers and run through all of the big stories that we could have led this episode
Well,
with,
sorry,
but we chose instead to talk about Pat McFadden.
That wasn't my thing at all. I just think it's an interesting thing that I actually think this is I think where I differ from you two in that I think
right.
in that well
Yeah.
no, because I think like
Yeah, all right, go on.
you love Labour Reshuffle Day. I don't. I think it's very interesting.
Well, when it's about your team.
What's my team?
The SMP.
I'm also British. This is still like
Yeah.
a UK government. I think it's interesting when like there's a reflex when something happens in Westminster that is kind of. I think this is quite a Westminster bubbly story. And the things that have happened today, I would actually rank this in terms of political news. I would rank this fourth, maybe. And I think it's interesting the way the political media. There's like, oh my God, it's Labour Reshuffle Day, and we will have live running commentary about it all day. It's like you said earlier. We were making fun of it, being like, is this the biggest moment of the reshuffle that hasn't finished yet? I think in terms of, I wonder if sometimes British political journalism doesn't serve its purpose really. In like, what does this? There are more important things.
Oh, okay.
I'm not trying to dispute. I think there's different approaches.
I don't know what you're talking about because I was like the first person shouting at the news desk that Gavin Williamson was going to have to apologise and that Chris Pincher had his appeal revoked.
It's not. I wasn't saying, but I wasn't. It's not a comment about you. It's a comment about.
Do you know what?
Sky News running commentary.
No, do you know what? You lot were talking about some like Celtics or whatever game that was on yesterday at the table
Ava's
earlier.
once again
and
pretending she doesn't know what football is.
Everton home and away.
But I said nothing about
but
it,
do
all
you
right?
do you not think-
And then when I want to talk about who's the new shadow levelling housing, whatever, you're like...
But is that more important than Sunak having signed off on cutting the schools being rebuilt?
But did I give... I think I gave them all equal precedence.
Not in this podcast. Not in this episode.
I just brought up Gavin Williamson.
But after you talked about Lisa Nandy and Pat McFadden.
Let me talk about Pat McFadden
But I think
and his furrowed brow.
But I think it's interesting. Like, is the public served by every Westminster editor standing on Downing Street, naming out Labour politicians they haven't heard of and don't really need to know they are?
What?
I don't know. I think it's quite. I think it's quite insidery.
Well, fine. Then we won't talk
It
about
is.
Gillian Keegan saying that, like,
Michelle Keegan, actually. I think that's what she's called.
Yeah, I mean, the audacity of Gillian Keegan Parliament's been back for one day, and she's in the media going, I've done a fucking good job.
I think
She's been
Those
back for less than 24 hours.
Those schools are saved, thanks to me.
you should thank Gillian Keegan because she's actually fallen into that little complaint you just had. Because tomorrow morning, the front pages probably would have been about Labour reshuffle, right? But actually, she's brought RAC back onto the front page. Sorry,
Yep.
as in RAAC. Sorry,
opposed
just to be clear, the concrete. I'm talking about the concrete and not someone's rack.
Oh, I didn't get that at all. It's not a page 3 thing.
No, so it's going to be back on there, right? 95% of schools safe. So only 1 in 20 school children could die, or whatever it is.
Thank God.
I had this really terrible false equivalence that I thought I was going to knock out today, but then do you know what? I'm going to do it. Okay.
Yeah, send it.
So I said, wow, 90.5% of cars in London are ULEZ compliant, right? But that's still a big whopper of an issue, right? Everyone's angry about it because 9.5% of people will be affected. 95% of schools have concrete in them that won't kill children if inhaled, and those are good odds, right? That was my... So imagine if you live in a ULEZ area and your school's got concrete in it.
Yeah, rough week.
You've really been...
Rough couple of weeks.
You can't you're out of the diesel for 1 second and then you're in the concrete the next. There's no escape, is there? And then your house has probably got black mold in it.
I thought...
Your lungs are going to be bits.
Yeah, I know.
Shredded.
Forgive me, I thought the concern with the concrete was that it would, collapse.
Yeah, but
There's also
isn't it-
asbestos. I think there's a separate asbestos thing,
Right.
which is also not good.
Who came up with crumbling concrete? Do you not think that's quite funny? Do you know what we should do? Make sure this shit, after a few years, just really has a bit of dust to it. That would be great.
Cheap. It's cheap like the budgie.